Okay, so this is kind of a special panel, especially that we're doing this in Athens. The National Archaeological Museum here is currently undergoing a transformative renovation and expansion led by David Chipperfield Architects. This ambitious project aims to modernize the museum while preserving its historical character, seamlessly integrating a 19th century structure with contemporary addition and expanding it with facilities that are 20,000 square meters. To share insights into this remarkable project, we are joined today by Stavros Gyftopoulos, Associate Architect at Tombazis Architects and local partner for David Chipperfield Architects. He is also a professor at the Technical University of Athens. We'll delve into the project's vision, the challenges faced during its development, its ongoing development, and its impact on preservation also. Hi, Stavros.
Hello.
Please join me in welcoming Stavros.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the invitation. So I would like to start the presentation on the project of the Archaeological Museum of Athens. David Chipperfield, Berlin, and in collaboration with Tombazis office in Athens, they have won the competition for the National Archaeological Museum of Athens. The International Evaluation Committee unanimously selected the design from a short list of 10. The National Archaeological Museum, located in Exarchia district of Athens, houses one of the most important collections of prehistoric and ancient art. The original neoclassical building by Ludwig Lange and Ernst Ziller dates from 1866 to 1874 and has been supplemented with additional buildings over time through refurbishment and extension. The National Archaeological Museum of Athens will be modernized to meet today's standards of quality, openness, and sustainability. The NAM, as we call it, is the National Museum in Greece, and as it represents one of the most deeply embedded and dominant national myths, namely the origin of modern Greece from ancient Hellas. The appearance of the current museum complex is largely defined by the Ziller completion of the four-winged complex at the end of the 19th century, the Nomikos extension in the 1930s, and the Karantinos transformation after the Second World War. The building complex of the National Archaeological Museum was already placed under heritage protection in 1952 during the design stage of Karantinos transformation. The design team draws on the essence of Lange's original design, a romantic Philhellenic idea of an urban landscape articulated through lush open areas within the dense city grid, taking a monumental building as a starting point and framing it with nature. The starting point for the project is the existing building. We aspire to regain and highlight its historic qualities in terms of materiality, symmetry, functional order, color, and daylight, in order to make it shine, once again, as a landmark monument. The new presence of the building works as a harmonious amalgam of its historic layers from the 19th century, the 1960s additions, and together with the new layer of architecture. This new layer are the historically informed interpretation which reflects the building as it was built originally. The extension provides a new setting for the historic landmark building, reordering its urban relations and connections in the neighborhood externally and the organization of the museums internally. As a built topography, it acts mainly in two levels. A lower level, accessible from the street, provides a continuum of flowing spaces around the public sunken courtyard, from which a theatrical open staircase ascends to the historic entrance of the neoclassical building. The main public functions of the extension, including the new entrance, the shop, the restaurant, the auditorium, permanent and temporary exhibition, are linked symmetrically in the base of the existing building, with the main exhibition level of the historic building via new day-lit staircases as well as lifts. In each urban setting, the building appears at the upper level as a landscape extension of the current base on which the neoclassical building sits within the park. The existing topography, together with the new topography of the extension, provide public and barrier-free accesses to both levels, the museum extension and the terraced garden above. The solid volumes that form the flowing spaces of the museum's extension on the lower level allow for planting, monumental trees, and giving the spatial order of a public garden. This park plateau opens towards the university, the National Technical University, as well as the Acropole across. Providing both accessibility and protection, the park with its abundant vegetation and cafe and the second courtyard in the center create a new urban location of high quality, not only for the museum visitor, but also for the citizens of Athens. The balance between the historic and the new, with their inherent special qualities, establish a new contemporary destination, which is spectacular for what it is. Not a symbolic gesture, but a place to be, to meet, and to encounter both the past and the present. The museum extension, with its forecourt, continues to mark a clear entrance in the central axis of the existing building. The entrance to the park and the interior spaces with their large openings are oriented in all directions, communicating with the neighborhood and with the university, as we already said. These are the connections, the red arrows. The new extension creates a special type of internal landscape, housing flowing and overlapping spaces with diagonal views. In the center of this, the courtyard celebrates the entrance of the portico and the symmetry of the existing buildings. The courtyard binds the two projects together into one total, bringing light and views to the very heart of the new extension, becomes the space around which you rotate and you understand your position in relationship between the new and the old buildings. The flowing quality of the new exhibition spaces provide special moments for contemplation. Large openings provide daylight mainly from the sides with attractive relationship between inside and outside. The spatial continuum around solid volumes creates a counterpoint to the sequence of historic spaces in the existing building, thus offering a rich variety of situations for the presentation of the collections. The reorganization of faction in the existing building aims to create clarity. The 19th century building is dedicated exclusively to the exhibition space, while the new building from the 1930s will become a center of research with library, workshops, a viewable storage, and administration spaces. In addition to the possibility of entering the historic building via the representative open staircase in the central axis, there are two other day-lit staircases situated symmetrically on each side that provide internal connection between the exhibitions and the existing building and extension. The refurbishment will gently update the existing fabric to a state-of-the-art museum standards. The revitalization must be achieved while limiting interventions in the existing fabric to a greatest extent possible and adding volumes that blend with the existing in a technologically and architecturally, of course, seamless function. Upon entering the museum, visitors walk through 2 floors of continuous flowing exhibition spaces that leads them to the existing building. a refined architectural language of pure and clear volumes, diagonal views, and rammed earth walls contrasts with the historical spaces, in combination with a precise play of light and shadow. The new presence of the building complete in a contemporary interpretation the historic layering of the previous eras, as we can see here, the 19th century Lange and Schiller building, the 1930s Nomikos building, and the 50s Karantinos extension with the Epigraphical Museum as a whole complex. The garden. The park on the museum's extension project creates a heaven of peace and a green oasis in the middle of Athens. It aims to build on a tradition of romantic parks of the 19th century, which often surrounded these neoclassical 19th century museum buildings in Europe. This particular situation, however, it is the larger rooftop garden elevates itself from the bustling, noisy city. All level differences and transitions are carefully integrated in trees and shrub masings and open lawn spaces that, with great depth and perspectives, negotiate all the physical obstacles. Several architectural elements enrich the composition and link the park with the museum's activities. The outdoor cafe, the tabletop tree grove for outdoor learning, playground, dining. At the entrance, the shadow and freshness of big trees and pools welcome the visitor, inviting them to gather before entering the building. Together with the central courtyard, the new landscape elements reflect in the central axis the symmetrical order of the neoclassical building, while laterally the classical order transforms into the organic fluidity of a romantic landscape as a metamorphosis of the architectural order of the new museum spaces. Sustainability, just a few words. In terms of material, indoor climate, and map technology, we have developed two distinct concepts which may be summarized as follows. The new museum annex as a high-mass, low-energy architecture enhanced with green and public infrastructure facing the city. The historic museum as the gently, energetically revitalized, climatically upgraded core of the ensemble, utilizing the natural climate whenever possible. In summary, the ensemble's environmental strategies combine good urban design, green cooling and services for the neighborhood with sound, passive, and active building technology, high mass fabric, displacement ventilation, radiant systems, heat pumps, and multiple environmental energy sources, use of natural ventilation when appropriate, etc., as well as a significant reduction of embodied carbon. These strategies are robust and complicated to operate and will ensure a long-term, cost-effective, resilient operation of the museum. A few words on the structure. The supporting structure of the new building consists of reinforced concrete and rammed earth. The slab above the ground floor is designed as reinforced concrete slab with beams. It is supported by rammed earth blocks of different size and rammed earth shafts. These shafts are partly used for technical installations and partly filled with soil for planting on the ground floor. Some of the walls are up approximately 1 meter thick, and they can therefore be made of the chosen rammed earth. Clay is a locally abundant structural material that was historically used in many buildings, especially as unbaked bricks. By dumping clay, a high load-bearing capacity is achieved. Since the clay supports are all protected from the weather, durability is ensured. No additives are added. Clay is a pure neutral material that can be returned to nature. In the existing building, the interventions in the structure are to be minimally invasive and respect the existing structure. Over the past 35 years for David Chipperfield office and more than 50 years for Tombazis office, we have worked with museum buildings. This work has varied in many scales and different approaches. We need here to say about the UNESCO World Heritage Site in Berlin made by David Chipperfield, and also some new institutions that they have been done, as the Turner Contemporary Museum, or the recently completed renovation of Mies van der Rohe new National Gallery in Berlin. And these are the works that have been done in the Neues Museum in Berlin by David Chipperfield Architects, giving us a sign of what we will expect also in the National Archaeological Museum. A fundamental prerequisite for developing a restoration project for the NAM, in line with his heritage status, is a comprehensive and precise understanding of the building's history and construction phases. To achieve this, the design team carefully reviewed and assessed both primary and secondary sources, ensuring that all design-relevant documents and evidence are now been accessible on a shared data where all the project team can approach. So, closing this presentation, I would like to make to you also the question, how does a new building needs to complement and not only to be a new building, but part of the existing construction, and how this will create a place of itself. Our architectural approach has been to create this plinth growing out of the existing building and therefore fundamentally connected to the 19th century building, but at the same time, that socle develops into a powerful piece of architecture which is both presenting itself as a front door, bringing the museum closer to the city. The challenge, of course, is to get those two things in balance, that the building has to be a powerful presence and at the same time has to offer a significant platform for a garden, a public space, not just a roof, but really a public garden. Thank you.
Thank you, Stavros.
Sorry if I took some more time.
No, it's perfect. You actually did answer a lot of my questions.
Okay.
But let me start by asking you about some progress updates. So can you provide us an update on the current progress of the project? Where are we now in terms of the timeline?
We are really happy because we are working very intensively on the project. Since last spring, the project has started to be organized by the two teams and, of course, all the other disciplines that take part in this big effort. And we have now a very strict time schedule for the design, and we are hoping to be as most precise as we can on time, giving to public the final and full design for construction at 2.5 years' time from now.
Amazing. So So let me go back to the start a bit. And you said that this project was selected from a short list of 10 other projects. In your
Yes.
opinion, what actually distinguished this proposal from others?
Well, I don't think it's only one thing that you can mention, but I believe that this choice of making the base of the building to be not an underground museum, but visible to the city, create a base that the old neoclassical sits on it, was one of the major ideas. Other ideas have to do with the vision of the garden, which is an open garden, a garden to the public. We believe that there will be an interaction with the university, with the Acropola Cross, and also with the citizens of Athens. They can have an open garden almost 24 hours a day, usable for them.
So you're changing kind of also the definition of what a museum is, since you're opening it up to the city, right? And
Exactly.
reconnecting with the infrastructure, but also with the different facilities around it.
Yes,
So
yes.
it becomes more of a museum to the people.
We are hoping to be an open museum. We are aiming in the porosity of the museum with the city. And this base of the museum, which is the extension, needs to be a porous building, a building that can bring people in. Yes, exactly.
And in terms of definition, because obviously you spoke a lot about the different types of interventions and what you hope to achieve through this museum, but can we talk about a certain balance and everything?
Yes, of course. The balance is that we would like to keep the historical character of the existing building. We are trying to clean it up of some of the interventions that have been done
Over the years,
and especially with the 50s integration. Some of them are not very well integrated in the museum, so we are planning to rethink on them. And also I believe that the internal circulation of the new extension and the old historical building is the key to the project, how the people will very fluently move through the new building and enter the old existing one.
The flow of people, basically.
Exactly.
And speaking of the site and its constraints, were there any specific, let's say, urban challenges or site-specific constraints that also influence the design?
Yes, there are. There are a lot of. First of all, it's a listed building.
Yes.
There are a number of things that you cannot do. But also in the perimeter of the building, the urban plot, there are some restrictions. There are certain restrictions that some of them we are now realizing doing the design, and we hope to get as good solutions as possible.
Okay. And now maybe more talking about the spatial enhancements. In your opinion, how does the renovation improve the visitor's experience, not just the new expansion, but the renovation of the older structure?
Yeah. We would like to give to the existing museum a new proposal for exhibition.
Okay.
So you will have a new vision of the museum, a new vision of the museology. In our team, we have specialists in museology exhibition. We have Atelier Bruckner, who they are doing, I believe, very extensive work in mapping of the existing situation and also in producing new ideas. So we hope that with these very well designed integrations in the historical building, you will have a new vision of even of the old museum.
Okay, so it's a new experience that flows seamlessly between the old, let's say, structure and the new extension, right?
Yes, of course. In the new building, we have the choice of rammed earth, which is a very innovative material. So we believe that this will give to the whole project quite an interesting research approach. They don't even have in our building laws the rammed earth as a material that can be used. So we need to find ways to
Okay, so there
integrate.
is restrictions on
Yeah,
the
there are
rammed earth.
restrictions.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
And how did you manage to bypass that?
We will prove with researchers and scientists that we can overcome, even using, in some situations, regulations from other European countries.
Okay. And in terms of the detailing, were there any specific, let's say, innovative techniques or design details that you are particularly, let's say, proud of in this project?
Well, we have, but they are still in
under development.
Under development, and especially I believe that the MEP team, which is Sobeck team from Germany, they are very inventive and they are thinking of very specialized ways of giving a new climate to the new building and the existing one. So these are quite innovative proposals, and we hope that we can integrate in our design.
Okay, so last question before we start talking to the public. Again, in your opinion, or what is the anticipated outcome of the museum once it's completed?
I was last month, I was in Berlin, visiting once more the Neues Museum in Berlin. And I was once more very much impressed by the quality of the materials, the exhibition, and the whole construction of the existing building. So if I can imagine a future experience, I would like to have such an experience in the new Archaeological Museum of Athens.
Yeah. Also in Berlin, since you're mentioning the project, it's always very much activated in its, I wouldn't say garden, it's in its plaza also.
Yes, it is the whole island of the museums. There is a big master plan, but in our also project, we have this square, and we believe that this is going to be the machine that will bring people and citizens not only to the square, but into the museum also.
So the main attraction point, let's say. Well, thank you so much for your insights, for the presentation.
Thank you.
And now I would love to hear from you. Does anyone have any questions that you would like to ask about the museum?
Hello, my name is Stelios. The vegetation that you are using for the landscape external parts, are they the same with the existence, or you bring
Well, we are working closely with Wirtz International, which is the landscape team that took part also in the competition with us, and they are now in the project. So they have done a very thorough survey of the existing vegetation, and there will be a long process of transplanting many of the existing plants to a nursery for a period that we will need in order to construct a new building and bring back some of the existing trees. And of course, there is a big number. It's much bigger, the number of trees that we are proposing for the new garden. And also in the proposal, these trees are going to be quite big from the beginning. We will not have a park that needs 10 years or 20 years to grow, but we are planning, and that's why we are doing these big holes in the ground in order to have the opportunity, big trees, to develop their...
Thank you so much.
Hello, congratulations. The building is beautiful. I wanted to ask you if you are designing specific rooms around specific works of art.
Yes, that is
For how
the
many?
situation. I cannot tell you right now,
She
but
has
the-
information,
No,
apparently.
I saw the little boy on the
yeah,
horse.
this was an image, a perspective image for the competition, but there will be these kind of spaces, and this will be planned. This is the work of Atelier Bruckner in order to have the enhanced museology narrative in the museum. Of course, we must say here that the archaeologists of the museum, they are very
Delicate.
they are very good scientists, and they have very deep knowledge of the museum and its exhibits. So they have given us, together with the discussions that we have done since last spring, they have given us a very concrete museology report. So they know what they want to exhibit and how in some times. So there's going to be a dialogue between architects and archaeologists, designers, the Atelier Bruckner, in order to find ways of presenting special pieces of sculpture. But just keep in mind that we are planning to have mostly a day-lit museum. They will be positioned in natural light.
Would light be more, let's say, controlled in the new extension to create a different experience?
Not only. Even
Okay.
now, the existing building has natural lighting. We will enhance this, and we will control, of course, this in other situations.
I know you did mention this in the presentation, but can we go over the new functions and spaces that were introduced in the extension? So, other than the galleries,
Yeah.
what new functions were added?
Of course, we will have all the necessary functions that a contemporary museum
Would need,
needs to
yeah.
be a productive and also to give opportunities to people to have different actives in the museum. So it's going to be a shop, quite more important and extended than the one they already have. It's going to be restaurants and cafes that they will work independently of the museum hours. So you will have a movement of people during hours that the museum is also closed. We will have a big auditorium, which is something that the museum now doesn't have.
Okay.
We will have a big temporary and permanent exhibition spaces for special exhibitions that are planned to be in the museum.
Okay. Great. Does anyone have any question before we wrap this up?
And of course, I would like to add here that the whole rear part of the museum, the 1930s Nomikos building, will be a very well-equipped research center.
Okay.
The whole building, which partly now is a museum, it will be a research center. It will have open storage, labs, preservation labs, and all the important aspects that a modern contemporary museum needs to have.
Okay. And since this is a renovation, do you expect that the museum is going to close completely for a few times until you finish the renovation? Are you phasing this out? How is it going to happen?
There's been a long discussion on this issue. In the beginning, there were discussions saying that the museum will be partly closed, but this is not going to be possible during construction. I believe that for a period of time, at the high edge of the construction, all of the museum will have to close for a period, yes.
Okay. I think that's it then. Thank you, Stavros, so very much for
Thank you very much
explaining
for
all the
inviting
process.
me.
Thank you.
Thank you.